All right, ready for a deep dive into some seriously strange territory.
Always up for a good mystery.
Today, we're tackling the 2006 Chicago O'Hare Airport UFO sighting.
Ah, yeah, the O'Hare case. One of those that really gets people talking.
We've got eyewitness accounts, official reports, even some wild theories involving, get this, warp drive technology.
Warp drive. Okay, you've got my attention. Let's hear it.
So picture this, November 7th, 2006. It's like any other day at O'Hare, busy, a little crazy.
I've been there, I can imagine.
Right, so it's a little after 4 p.m., the weather's kind of gloomy, overcast.
Hitting the mood.
Exactly. And that's when multiple United Airlines employees start seeing something really weird hovering near Gate C17.
Wait, hold up. Not just like one or two people. You said multiple employees.
Multiple. And not just anyone. We're talking experienced pilots, mechanics, even a United manager. People who know a thing or two about the sky.
Okay, so these are credible witnesses. What did they actually see?
They described it as a metallic, disc-shaped object just kind of hanging out up there.
A classic disc shape, like a...
Yeah, like a huge frisbee is how some of them put it. Completely silent, totally motionless.
A giant silent frisbee over an airport. That's not something you see every day.
And it wasn't just a quick glimpse either. Some witnesses observed this thing for over 5 minutes.
5 minutes? That's a long time to stare at something you can't explain.
Right. And then it gets even weirder.
Weirder how? It doesn't just fly off.
According to witnesses, it shot straight up, like incredibly fast, and disappeared right through the cloud cover.
Just like that. Gone.
Gone. It left this perfectly circular hole in the clouds, according to some reports.
You're kidding. Okay, that's not just your average strange lights in the sky kind of thing. Something big must have happened.
Big is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where things start to get really interesting. So we've got a bunch of people who saw this thing, right? And not just like random folks, but airline employees, pilots.
People whose job it is to know what's up in the air, basically.
Exactly. So what happens next? Do they, call the bigwigs, report this thing?
You would think, right. Well, that's where things get a little shady.
Shady how? What do you mean?
Well, imagine you're one of these witnesses, right? You've just seen something unbelievable.
Something you can't explain.
Exactly. So naturally, you're going to want some answers.
So what happened? What'd they say? Does anybody fess up to anything?
Initially, crickets. Both United Airlines and the FAA basically clammed up, denied any knowledge of the whole thing.
No way. They just ignored it.
Pretty much. It took a Freedom of Information Act request. You know those things journalists use to pry information out of the government?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
Right. So it took one of those from the Chicago Tribune to finally shake something loose.
What did they find?
Internal emails, phone calls, the whole shebang. And let's just say it painted a different picture than nothing to see here.
What do you mean? Spill the tea.
Well, let's just say there seemed to be a lot more concern about keeping things quiet than actually figuring out what happened.
A cover-up. Sounds a little conspiracy theory-ish, don't you think?
Maybe. But you gotta admit, it's suspicious. Eventually, they did offer an explanation, though.
Oh, yeah. What was their big explanation for a giant frisbee in the sky?
A weather phenomenon.
Come on, seriously. A weather balloon. That's the best they could come up with.
Not quite. They said it was a hole punch cloud. Basically a weird cloud formation. They claim there was nothing on radar.
A hole punch cloud. I guess I can see that, but bigger than a jumbo jet? Come on.
That's where things start to fall apart. You see, for a hole punch cloud to form, you need super specific conditions. And the weather that day. It just wasn't right.
So not a weather balloon, not a cloud. What does that leave? This is where it gets really wild, right?
This is where we get into some seriously fringe science territory.
Okay, fringe science territory. Is this where the warp drive stuff comes in?
You got it. So get this. A group of physicists who study, theoretical physics, they hear about this case and decide to take a crack at it.
Physicist?
Yeah.
Okay, this is getting interesting. What did they find?
They were already doing research on warp drive technology, right?
Warp drive? Hold on. Like Star Trek, faster than light travel kind of stuff?
Exactly. And get this, they actually found some interesting parallels between how this object supposedly moved and the theoretical effects of a warp drive.
Okay, now my brain is officially fried. How could something from Star Trek explain what happened in Chicago?
So a warp drive, the basic idea is it doesn't really move through space the way we think of it.
Then how does it move?
It's more like it manipulates space-time itself, like creating a bubble that distorts space around it.
So instead of flying through space, it's sort of warping space around it.
Right. And these physicists, they theorize that if something like that were to deactivate, poof, It could release a burst of energy and maybe even cause those visual effects that people reported. The sudden movement, the hole in the clouds.
So you're saying some super advanced civilization with warp drive was just cruising over O'Hare?
Hey, I'm just telling you what the physicists are saying. But okay, let's be real for a second.
Please, Lux.
Even if it sounds crazy, even if it was just a bizarre weather thing or some kind of secret aircraft, don't you think somebody would have said something by now?
It's been years. You'd think someone would spill the beans?
Mm.
You know what they say? The truth is out there.
Right. But the bigger question is, are we ready to face it? And what does it mean for us if it turns out we're not alone?
I think that's a pretty good place to leave it for today. A little bit of mystery, a little bit of awe, and maybe a healthy dose of existential dread.
Sounds about right.
If you ask me, there's something out there.
Well, I guess we'll just have to keep looking up to find out.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep those eyes on the skies and stay curious.